All right, I think I've got us here. We've got a bit of bright sunshine.
This is 8 painting with Sergeant.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to switch sides
Okay.
just so that I am...
Do you need me to move? Like,
No, I think you are actually fine. I'm getting good light on you. It's me that's the problem.
Okay. Do you want to come over on this
Yeah,
side?
that's what I'll do. There we go. Just move us to here. They have us doing so many of these silly videos. They're not silly. They're important and good. I didn't say silly. Yay for editing.
I was actually thinking about doing RDI training myself so I could do the therapy with Sergeant without having to do it on their terms.
Am I filming? Yeah, I'm filming.
Oh, no. Okay, good.
Yeah, but I can edit.
Oh, good.
No,
This is my water.
I do a lot of editing. Just grab this guy and this stuff. Okay. So I am sitting here with Santwana. I'm super, super excited to be sitting here with you. Santwana is going to be participating in my practicum project as part of our self-care group. And so in this case, Santwana is the parent of 2 children, one of whom is autistic. And Avani, your daughter, does she have any diagnoses of any type?
Not officially, no.
Okay.
No, but, yeah,
But very special, very bright children.
yes.
And you are, here's what I know of you. I know that you homeschool your children.
Yes, I do.
And I know that that is very much a philosophy for you, but is also the result of the school system not meeting the needs necessarily of your children.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
Yeah.
And so part of the self-care group is examining the difficulties and barriers that people who are raising dependents with autism encounter in terms of meeting their needs.
Yes.
Right? And my area of focus, of course, is going to be on the need for physical activity. I do have some capacity to chat about other areas in terms of what we should be looking at for sleep and what we should be looking at for nutrition, things like that. But my baby is on the missing piece. I like to call it the missing piece of Maslow's hierarchy. Because, of course, we know the hierarchy of needs talks about your need to eat and your need to sleep and your need to have water and your need to have basic cleansing processes for your body. It's somehow in there, Maslow neglected to mention that the body needs to move. It actually really does. And I'm really sad that he neglected it because I firmly believe that that omission has led us to not recognizing and realizing that human movement is a physiological need. It is a base need. Without it, the body can't function properly. So we start to see things fall apart a little bit.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to address with the practicum.
Okay.
As we discussed, we are going to hit some of the more superficial questions in this little segment, and then we'll be going more in depth in other segments. I do have a full survey for you to complete online.
Okay.
That's going to get a really big inventory of your life situation and how we can help to remove barriers in terms of physical activity for your family specifically.
Okay.
But for right now, I'm just going to give you my little spiel. We're just going to have a chat.
Okay.
The nice fun thing about this is we know each other, but still so superficially, right? And we really know each other as parents.
Yes.
And I'm super interested in getting to know you as a person.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a really exciting project for me too, selfishly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, let's just start really quickly. We've had a chance to chat a little bit, just catch up and do our fun thing, check in on how the kids are doing. How are you doing? What are you up to lately?
I'm doing pretty well. I think I'm homeschooling. That's a full-time gig for me. So that's basically what I organize my time, my focus is around.
Right. Now, what does a day look like for you in terms of that?
Okay, so the kids and I wake up late usually right now because we sleep late.
Okay.
And so there's a very slow getting ready, getting going in the morning. And then somewhere around 10 o'clock, we sit down and we start to do some schoolwork. Right now, a lot of the kids' activities haven't started. They're starting this week or next week.
Okay.
So we have a more relaxed pace. But normally that would mean most mornings we sit down and we do some schoolwork. And then we have activities in the afternoons. The kids have music lessons. They have phys ed classes and swimming lessons, things like that. So that's usually our afternoons.
Awesome.
And then we are wandering around getting those things done, and we come home usually about 5 o'clock most days, and then we get ready for supper. We eat supper as a family together every night.
Awesome.
And then after supper, the kids usually have some connection time with Dad, and that's when I have some time to myself because I really need alone time every day, or I go batty. And then they get ready for bed, and they go to bed. And then sleep is tricky for us because sleep is tricky for a lot of autistic kids. Always has been, always will be. So sleep, the whole process of getting kids to sleep can take quite a long time.
Oh, I know all about that one.
Yeah. It's usually when whatever anxiety they're working with is at its strongest.
Yeah.
So I generally, even though we all get to bed around 9, the kids are not usually asleep until 11.
Right.
Sometimes later. Sometimes Sergeant's up till 2. It can get a little tricky. And then even then, usually it's interrupted. By 2 o'clock, somebody's in somebody's bed. Somebody's had to move over. It's not unusual for me to be woken up 3 or 4 times in the night to have to respond to something.
I genuinely think that is the biggest challenge in my life.
Yeah.
Is sleep.
Yeah.
Because Sam has slightly different patterns. He goes to bed at a really good time, actually. He's usually 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But then he'll have his waking period, usually between 1 and 2, and then 5 and 6-ish.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And so it's always that balance of I have a bus for him, right?
Yes.
The bus comes every day. But if my child's been awake until 5:30 in the morning, I need to let him sleep. And so that also just takes an hour out of the life having to get him to school and so on.
Yeah.
And for many kids, that sleep impediment disrupts the whole household, right?
Yes.
Like I imagine no one sleeps particularly well.
We've arranged it so that we try to make sure John gets a good night's sleep most nights because he has to arrive at work about 7:30 in the morning and he is on full until about 5, right?
Sure.
So if we have a rough night, we can change activities, the 3 of us, myself and the kids, and we can take naps, we can slow things down, we can adjust our schedules. He doesn't have that luxury. So generally we try to make sure he has an uninterrupted night of sleep, mostly, although there gets a point sometimes when I've been really sleep deprived and he can tell at which point we have a system so that I get a bed to myself for the night and he's just on dealing with whatever. So if there are enough rough nights in a row, then we swap it out. Yeah. But we're trying to keep in mind the fact that he has this rigid schedule. Right?
Yeah, and it's funny. We've had to do the opposite. Jason's actually become the parent at night.
Yes.
In most cases, because my work is so physical, right? I'm teaching 12 fitness classes a week, and if you don't sleep and recover, your body will break down on you. Yeah. Right. So it's just perpetual fatigue. So
and the other thing to keep in mind is that I've had these disrupted sleep patterns for 14 years now. Yeah. So I don't know if my body really knows how to sleep through the night anymore.
For sure. Even
if my son isn't waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, I am.
Yeah.
Right? Automatically. And it can take a while for me to settle down again.
Okay.
So
we've got a busy day from what I'm hearing from you. We've got our school stuff in the morning for several hours, activities in the afternoon. And because you're homeschooling, you are intimately involved with both aspects of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So free time you get some in the evenings.
Yes. Yeah. So I'd say between about 7:30 and 9, that's my time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
How do you like to spend it?
Oh, I mostly veg with a book.
Yes.
I need quiet. I just need quiet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, occasionally I'm doing some housework, but generally we're not at that point in time. So I mostly am it's quiet time.
Yeah. Just
quiet time.
And I think that's a really important thing in terms of self-care is making sure you have time to zone into yourself and reset, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting struggle and balance for those of us who are a little bit more introverted.
Yes.
Or who really need that space to have to parent all day and all the time, right?
Yeah.
Parenting's a lot of work, so.
Well, yeah, and it's high interaction too, right?
For sure.
Like even during the day, because of the way my kids work, we'll homeschool for half an hour, 40 minutes of sort of focused sit down work, and that's usually I'm there for 40 minutes or an hour, and the kids are coming and going, right?
Right.
One of them for 20 minutes, the next one for 20 minutes, and so on. And then everybody just leaves. We all just go our separate ways, and we take a break for a bit, and then we come back and we do the same thing. So it's, even during the day, we're trying to take some time in between things, but I'm never more than a minute or two away from an interruption from whatever I'm up to. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I imagine that has presented a fair amount of challenges in terms of making sure that you are able to meet activity goals, anything like that.
Yeah. I've tried a variety of things. I mean, I've been trying to improve this because I used to be very fit until about 10 years ago. I think when my daughter was born, things just got more complicated after that. So I think Sajjan was always tricky, but it was just him and I and the two of us, and I was not working for most of that time. So we found our ways. Mm-hmm. I was doing a lot of yoga. I was doing Pilates. I was very active. After my daughter was born, it was much harder, and the stress level went up quite a bit because he experienced a tremendous amount of stress at her arrival. So it took him 3 or 4 years to kind of settle down.
Right.
With the fact that his world had been disrupted by the arrival of a new chaotic event that, he took some time to get used to.
And then, of course, you're talking about school at that point and whether or not that's even feasible.
Well, yeah, he did go to play school, and that worked out well because it was a perfect setting. He went to kindergarten for a year. That worked out really well. And then we thought, let's do this for another year because it's worked out so well. But he was decompensating by the second year, by the end of the first year of kindergarten, and by the second year he fell apart about halfway through. And so at that point we were seriously considering homeschooling. And then by the time he was in grade 1, that's
it is what it is. Yeah.
And
that's the reality for so many of us, right? So, but you had a previous career,
yes.
Interestingly enough, in movement. Right?
Well,
or at least in some ways as an OT, in the body.
Yes. So I was an occupational therapist. I guess I still am. Mm-hmm. I was working in the school system. So I was working with kids with special needs, mostly autistic children.
It's like it's prep work, hey?
I know. I feel like the universe set me up for years to be ready for this.
So many of us, our previous career was somehow related to working with disabilities.
Yeah.
I honestly wonder if I didn't just know subconsciously that this was going to be and I feel so much better prepared because of the work I did before, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've often wondered that. It's interesting.
I know, it's funny because I never even wanted to work with autistic kids.
Right.
But somehow I would switch jobs and it would have a caseload of mostly kids with cerebral palsy or kids with, something else going on. And then over the year that I'd started the job, it would switch. The caseload would just become mostly autistic kids. And I'd be going, how'd this happen?
Yeah.
And then and over the years it got better and better because I didn't really know what I was doing at the beginning. Nobody really knew what they were doing 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we had low VAS. That was basically it. And you'd get a job and they'd hand you a low VAS video and you'd think, this? Really? This makes me think of dogs.
Touch your nose, good girl, M&M.
And it was happening in schools that way, right? It still is in some places. And so we were basically, floor time hadn't been invented yet.
And what do we know now as an OT and as a parent who's been following all of this? What do you know now about the body's need to move?
The body craves it.
Yeah.
I know that my body craves movement. Well, I know it's as basic as, like, I had a friend who was a physio with very, very elderly, demented people, and she'd say, if I can get them up and walking, they have a good bowel movement. And that, at the very basic, improves their quality of life. So my body just needs to move in order for fluids to get to places, right? My entire lymphatic system is sluggish unless I move. My heart needs to do its work in order to, it's a cleansing system for the body.
100%.
It gets things moving. But it also improves my chemical balance in my brain. And there is a kind of attention that I think we can accomplish through body movement because we have to tune into the body.
Yes.
And for me, yoga and Pilates were about that. I remember the first time I was able to breathe and open up the back of my lungs, I realized there was a whole muscle group that I hadn't ever known how to touch at that point with any perceptive awareness. That is something that only opens up when when we settle into the body.
Yeah.
I can say that with my son when he was younger, and probably not so differently now, if I got him to close his eyes and touched him, he wouldn't be able to tell me where on his body I was touching him. And so that was, I mean, how can you expect him to hold a pencil and do anything with it when he doesn't even know that the pencil is in his right hand versus his left hand? So, and when he's very, very stressed, one of the things that we can do that calms him down faster than anything is to get him to close his eyes, and I'll touch him and I'll say, tell me where I'm touching, and he'll say my left hand, my right thigh, my left toe. We get him out of this swirling cognitive space and back into
zoning into the actual physical.
Yeah.
So yeah, bang on. And philosophically, that's where I approach a lot of my practice. And I think that's where you and I aligned and found each other in terms of discussing this particular project. Is I believe in movement from a therapeutic perspective, right? Movement because it is good to move.
Yes.
Right. And that the goals are important, and I think that we're going to talk about that as well. But movement, just for the sake of movement,
is for the joy of it.
Is in and of itself a goal.
Yes.
Right. Because the body is meant to move and was created to move.
Yeah.
So philosophically, definitely, we're aligned on that one. Now,
the other thing I can mention is after Sajan was born, for several years I taught a program called Music Together.
Yes, right.
So that was a music and movement. It was mostly music, but there was definitely a move to the music, move with music.
Yeah.
Love moving with your child component.
I honestly, that's part of why I love teaching group fitness, because we use music, and I don't know, and when I do in home or site specific where I can control things like the music, I love to use and plan to music because it's a connector, right? It helps to regulate and connect all the different systems in the body, and it makes it go by faster.
Yes,
music is effective. It's a great tool.
And I love to dance.
Do you? I didn't know that.
I mean, no official, I didn't do tap or anything like that, but I just love to groove to music.
Oh, music.
But I find as I've gotten bigger, I feel more and more self-conscious about it.
Okay. So that's another thing that we want to try and reduce, right? That sense of self-consciousness, so that you can really feel at home in your body doing all those fun things. Yeah. So why am I here?
Well, I want to become stronger again, right? I put my back out several years ago, and I realized it's because all those core muscles aren't strong, and I'm still expecting my body to do all the things it used to do, but I haven't made the time to give it a good foundation for those things. Right. And I hate feeling vulnerable, right? So I want that feeling of, I can pick that up, I can work with that. I remember years ago when because I've done lots of things where I come back again and I invest in fitness for a while, and then it falls off the bandwagon for one reason or another. And I'd been going to curves for a while because it was so easy. And I remember picking up my daughter and lifting her up and putting her on my shoulders and thinking, oh, all those muscles, they're available to me, right? Yeah. Because I could do that without a sweat. I think I did it 5 times just for the joy of it. Because I could, right?
I honestly think that if curves had childcare, it would be the game changer.
Less obnoxious music and get rid of Jillian too.
Yeah, that too. But that's part of the issue, right? Is that we have these barriers. So in your situation, you've had physical activity as part of your life.
Yes.
And I know of you that you are a very self-driven, very motivated person, right? If you decide you want to do something, we don't have to convince Antoine to do something. So you're very effective at following through on the things that are accessible to you.
Yes.
Right? And so talk to me about what the barriers were that have led to some of those relapse situations.
Time.
Okay.
Carving out time is tricky for me.
It's literally carving it out, right? Like from a stone.
Because when I have a fraction of time, there are about 7 things that can go into that spot. Yeah. And it is very easy for me to put something else into that spot.
Right.
So, especially when you have a kid who has a lot of needs, there's a lot of stuff that can go into that spot.
Absolutely.
So, making that a priority has been tricky.
Okay.
So, carving out time. I'm with my kids all day, and I just want to be alone at the end of it all.
Yep.
And curves, they're all trying to be so encouraging, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, leave me alone. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or gym. Swimming is a little bit better, but I find, because I used to swim for fitness a lot. Like, I used to swim, a kilometer or two several times a week. When I was in university, I used to do it every day. So I used to find that really enjoyable. But I find it's harder to figure out where I fit into that whole swimming space now, because the slow lanes are too slow and the medium lanes I'm getting bombarded, and so it's solitary because no one's talking, in my experience. But I find it's harder to know where I fit, and the times never match up with the times I can go.
Yep.
So I'd say time is a big thing. Finding the right space or the right fit for it. I think I've spent 10 years deprioritizing myself.
Yes.
And so learning how to make myself important enough in my own mind is a shift. I do it for periods of time, and then I shift my attention again to other things.
Now, one of the things you're going to hear me talk a lot about, just again going back to that philosophically, and you might have read my post on it last year, self-care as a care for others.
Yes.
Right? The idea of it, if we consider that we are, especially parents of special needs kids, and the higher the needs, the more this is our reality.
Yes.
We're kind of in an airplane that's on the verge of crashing all the time, right? I don't know about you, but I wake up every morning going, today is going to go as well as it can. And that is the most I can control in this moment, right?
Yes.
And so I like to use the analogy of the airplane that is descending faster than we want it to. And we have airbags dropping, and we are with our children or with our dependents, right? These people who need of us.
Yeah.
We have to put our oxygen mask on first.
Yes.
We have to. And part of that, I'm going to interrupt it, part of that isn't just because we have to address our needs before we can help them with their needs, right? And in that moment, the reality is, in the 10 seconds, you could probably get the oxygen mask on them and then put it on yours. And I think we do that every day, where we're like, I'm going to gamble. I'm going to gamble. I'm going to get it on you, and I'm going to get it on me.
Yes.
The problem is, the more situations we have, so if we break our child's needs down as if they're all passengers with us, eventually that starts to catch up, and we lose oxygen.
Yes.
And if we crash, who's going to put on the other masks?
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just a question of that one individual. We have to think about every single time we're breaking those needs down.
Yeah.
So if I'm putting your oxygen mask on first every time, every night for sleep,
yes,
at some point I am going to pass out.
Yes.
Literally. Right?
Yeah.
And so all of these different needs add on, in your case, right, schooling and all these additional responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so if we're not ensuring, at the very least, oxygen.
Yes.
At the very least, I may not be able to guarantee you a life jacket. I'm not going to ask you to take the life jacket over your kid. I'm not ever going to ask you that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you consider oxygen to be the most fundamental of the basic needs, we need to breathe.
Yeah.
Now I want you to consider all basic needs are equal. Okay, so take that oxygen, take it one step further. All of your basic needs are actually equal. We do need to breathe. It is the most immediate thing we need. But all the breath in the world isn't going to save you from starvation if you don't eat. Okay? All the breath in the world isn't going to save you from dying from sleep deprivation if you don't sleep. And all the breath in the world isn't going to save you from not moving if your system starts to shut down and your muscles start to atrophy and things start to happen. And we have symptoms, right? For some of us, right? For me, weight gain was a symptom. It was my body working so hard at finding homeostasis, going, I am working with you. I am doing everything I can. I am storing fat. I am putting myself into a survival mode. Okay, you are not giving me what I need to function properly. And I am doing everything I can to support it, right? There are other symptoms, right? We know the relationship of mental health and exercise.
Yes.
Exercise is good for mental health. Also, lack of exercise is troubling for mental health. We know this to be true. So the system starts to shut down a little bit. And we're going to talk a lot in the practicum about the idea of that oxygen mask.
Yes.
Right? We are better parents.
Yes.
When we care for our needs.
Yeah.
I can put all of the oxygen masks on if I have my own on, because I have a constant, steady stream of oxygen. I don't have to worry about it. And again, life jackets will get there. Right? Really getting to self-actualization and thriving in this life, that's a process. We do the best we can. And I think every human being does that, right? Autistic children or not.
Yes.
But where we differ from the mass population is that our barriers are, I think, emotional and psychological and social the same way as most people. But they're also actually technical, right? We just have less time. We just do.
Yes.
I wish that wasn't the case, but I just have less time.
Yes.
And I cannot explain that. I have less capacity to get full sleep.
Yes.
It is just a reality. I love when my friends talk to me about how tired they are. I'm just like, oh, you're cute. I think it's cute that you are tired. My Fitbit told me that I got an hour and 13 minutes last night. Right? So our actual reality has tangible barriers. We need to identify those and help to remove some of them in our lives.
I think for me, a big one is I've taken, I mean, there are cultural ways and cultural roles about being a woman and being a wife.
Yes.
In my Indian culture.
Yes.
But also being the mother of a child with a disability comes with all of these sort of cultural norms.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
And so it's about shifting thinking, right? And I can also say, I mean, one of the things I was realizing just in the last week is, you know, I was talking about this with my husband. I was saying, you know, we have this one neuron talking to another neuron, right? And there's a neuronal junction, right? So you've got axons, you've got dendrites, you've got sodium, you've got all that stuff happening, right? And we know that those two neurons are talking to each other in my brain. And it doesn't occur to me that that first neuron is like an autonomous, independent, free will thinking thing, right? And that other neuron too, like, I don't know if I want that sodium. Maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't. There is this automatic communication. It's a system, right? And then we have a person, right? And we have a person, and you're emitting chemicals, right?
Yep.
And I am too. And we're receiving that information from each other. But we have this funny idea that you're an autonomous, willed person with free will and the ability to do whatever you want with all that information and be completely independent of me.
And we're not. We're subject to our environment. We just always
it's
are.
a system.
If not, then that wouldn't have made you blink. Right? The reality is you had no actual control over whether or not your body had an instinctive reaction to that noise.
Yes.
Right? So we impact each other.
We're in a system.
Yes.
And in that same way, my family is a system.
Yes.
Right? So I can say, I have this kid, right? And he has these behaviors. And what needs to happen next? Or I can discover or come to terms with the idea that this is a person in a system and I'm emitting something here because I'm in a state of stress, I'm depleted, I'm this and I'm that. I'm in a system, right? And I'm affecting this family system.
Yeah.
And so there was a period where I would do these sunrise yoga classes every morning. And I tell you, my whole family was more relaxed.
Yep.
I was in yoga from 6 to 7:30 a.m. every morning, Monday to Friday.
Better parents when our needs are met. And our kids, Santwana, need us to be better parents.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not even just talking about better for ourselves, because you are possibly one of the best parents I know. And that's the capacity I know you best in. We need to be better parents than society's expectations. Because again, the needs of our households are different. And so we need to be stronger. We need to do, and it's ironic, we have less time, we have less capacity. We need to do more. And we need to do more for them, which again, oxygen mask means we need to do more for us.
Yeah.
So Couple of things that I'm going to just really touch on. Then we're going to turn that camera off.
Right.
My poor instructor is like, I stopped listening 20 minutes ago. No, you didn't, because this is the world's most interesting conversation. I haven't met any of my teachers in person. I think that they're probably all going to run away from me when they do. So just really quickly, I've got a really good idea of what you have enjoyed in the past. I've got a pretty good sense of some of the things that you are looking for. We talked about strength. I think that we're talking about integrating routines and rituals and habits and all of that stuff. And we will talk more about what activity looks like, what is motivating and what is engaging for you, right? Yeah. I hear a lot of yoga, I hear a lot of Pilates, I hear a lot of, I don't want to necessarily be doing group-based stuff, I need to zone into me. Yes. We need to make it accessible. That's lending me to thinking that home options are good options.
Yes, and we have a whole bunch of home resources too.
Okay, then we will discuss all of that stuff. And we will be doing a fitness assessment. We'll be taking a look at where your body physically is right now. One thing to remember is that these are photographs in time.
It's a starting point.
Yeah, it's all it is a photograph in time. Yeah. And it tells you, the scale is my favorite one because the scale number changes literally over the course of the day. Yeah. And yet people put so much weight into this, but it's the most unreliable of all of our tools. We have good, reliable tools. We're going to get a baseline, is what I like to call it, so that we always know where we're doing compared to the baseline. Mm-hmm. One thing we don't want is to ever go beneath the baseline. Mm. And there might be moments where we go beneath the baseline, but we always want to try and stay above the baseline, right? Okay. There are some screening tools. I brought with you the PARQ. We'll go through this together, as well as the FOIP form for the practicum. I do have other tools. We'll be doing that survey I was talking to you about, which is kind of a more expanded form of what we call the Fantastic Lifestyle Questionnaire. So just getting a sense of how great is your life? Because I don't want to give the impression to anybody that this is not a great life.
No, there's a lot that's awesome.
There's a lot of awesome. And so we're going to look at what are the fantastic, awesome points, and then what are the areas of struggle, and try and identify specifically the barriers, right? So we've got time as a barrier. How do we carve that out? And we have different needs throughout the day and an ever-changing day that can be a barrier. Mm-hmm. So identifying them for each person and figuring out how we can work around them or build bridges above them. Okay. Just really quickly, I'm going to also ask you, we're going to be doing the fitness assessment on another day, so we're not going to spend too much time on that just now. You will be meeting with me a minimum of once a week. For about 60 minutes. Okay. I am also going to be having you check in with me because we're going to have little weekly goals that are self-care focused, mostly on physical activity. Doesn't have to be a lot. We'll come up with those together and find things that are manageable for you. And I'll be tracking at the end. We're going to revisit that big survey and figure out if we've had any changes. Right? Are there areas? So not only using those anthropometric tools, right, weight, all of that stuff, but really looking at, has your quality of life improved? Yes. Because that's the game we're playing here.
Yes.
When push comes